Hey, this is Aaron Kleiber, and I am a stand-up comedian, and you're watching Thank God for Jury Duty.
So, what have you been up to lately?
Just trying to do stand-up comedy as much as humanly possible. That's what I've been up to. But I always try to stay busy. You know, I'm a dad from Pittsburgh, so I kind of am in control of my own career sometimes. You know, I'm not in New York, LA scenes. So I try to stay busy as possible, and that's what I have to do, you know.
So why did you decide to start performing stand-up?
I started performing stand-up because I did everything else in entertainment. I was a filmmaker early on. I've been an actor for a long time, or trying to be an actor for quite a while, and I did improv and sketch comedy. And one of my comedy partners kind of had a death in the family and kind of had to go back home, and I didn't know what to do with myself, and people were telling me, you should do stand-up, and I did. I just tried it, and ended up working. It just ended up, you know, and also just relying on myself was kind of a relief for once, which now it's not a relief. It makes me sweat. Look at this. But no, it really was. It's a solo career a lot of the times, you know, because it's just you on stage. So, you know, anything you put into it, you're rewarded with, and that was pretty rad. You know what I mean? Because with filmmaking, you have to have a whole production and people, and sketch comedy, you have a team, and improv, you have a team, and stand-up is solo, and it seemed a little bit easier to do. Believe it or not.
How would you describe the type of stand-up you perform?
Well, I've gotten that I'm loud and manic and energetic, and I can't help that. It's just kind of who I am. I kind of always been that like goofy, manic, anxiety-ridden dude. But then I have 3 kids, so I've channeled it a lot more into just being funny. You know what I mean? I've channeled it on stage.
That's good. So what's something people would be surprised to know about you?
I think people will be surprised to know that I used to be a youth pastor. That's usually the one that gets people. That I have a degree in ministry, and I used to do that, and now I swear about my kids.
I'll get to that too. Do you collect anything or have any hobbies?
Oh my gosh. I'm a little bit of a collector. I'm a nerdy dude. My podcast, Grown Dad Business, I talk a lot about my dad quarters, because that's where I do my podcast from. And my dad quarters is covered in movie posters and nerdy posters, and covered in little figures and figurines. And my mantle has all sorts of a range of nerdy things, from Wolverine to Creature from the Black Lagoon to a 1988 boombox. So I like things from the past that make me happy. Can't help it. I'm like an old lady and her knickknacks, except it's a Deadpool figure.
So are you still a youth pastor?
No, I'm not. No,
Okay.
no. I've been full time in entertainment almost 9 years now, and no, I love the kids, and I love I loved working with teenagers, and it just seemed like I had a better experience going out and doing comedy and making people laugh. I thought that was a more fun thing, and I'm a little selfish too. It's a very selfless job doing ministry. So, yeah.
We have a children's book coming out. Can you tell us about that?
Well, yes and no. My children's book is not coming out. So, I don't even know how to explain it other than the people that I made the book with, we ran out of money, and we can't print it. I'm not kidding. That's the only way I can put it. So I don't know if you want to put that in there or not. It's not exciting.
Well, I saw it on Amazon.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
Well, can you put it out like later?
Yeah, I'm working on it right now. My illustrator moved, so that really put a damper into things, and then just putting it out, you have to print hundreds and hundreds of copies. It was supposed to be released in Amazon and Barnes & Noble last fall, but it's just a matter of it's just business. Man, people in comedy, you always think everything's clear cut, and a lot of younger comedians are like, oh, how's this happen? And it's gonna happen, and they say things that are gonna happen, and they're excited about it. Like, guess what I'm gonna do? And that doesn't happen sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was at a point where I could tell everybody like I'm doing a book, and then even the last stage could not be completed, and that's just printing the books and getting them to stores. So I hate to say it, shit happens. It really does. I've been doing this a while in different forms of entertainment, and in every, acting, filmmaking, stand-up, sketch comedy, doing YouTube videos, all of it, there's always something. There's something happens, and there's no expectations, no disappointment. That's what I always say.
Well, didn't you work on it? Like, you said you were... Like on your podcast, something you're drawing pictures or kind of something with your kids or something?
Yeah. Originally, so the book is called Farts Are Not Funny. And it's basically a caricature of myself yelling at kids not to laugh at farts. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And so the idea was that what's really fun to kids, I love books that make my kids laugh. And farts make my kids laugh all the time, like every kid. And so I was like, well, you guys have to come up with some ideas. And so they actually came up with some ideas like drawing farts, like kids farting on a roller coaster, and like it's like ridiculous. And so yeah, I have like storyboards that my kids drew that are actually going to end up in the book. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we'll see it soon.
I know. Well, thanks for asking. Thanks for digging into it.
Sure. So you said you do stand-up, acting, and improv. And you said you went to film school, but then instead you got a degree in youth counseling and theology. Like, how'd that come about?
Yeah, I was doing filmmaking. I went my freshman year of college at Point Park University, and that was at a time, I'm going to show my age now, but in the year 2000, filmmaking changed dramatically over like 5 years. So I was in the last year or two of film school where it was still 8 and 16 millimeter film. And, we're already playing with non-linear, Adobe Premiere, computer editing. And it was like, we don't want to cut 8 and 16 millimeter films. This is boring. Like, they're teaching us how to go in a dark room, which was cool to understand and know. But we also were like, we want to just make quick videos on our new DV cam. You know what I mean? When that was hot. And so I left film school and took some money, and we made our first independent film called Captain Blasto. And I ended up going to Geneva College for youth ministry and adolescent counseling and theology. Because I loved working with kids at that time. And in high school, I was one of those kids that were like a rough kid that kind of came into a church, and they were cool. And I was like, oh, cool. I don't have to like go do bad stuff to like have fun. That's basically what it was. And so I also come from an abusive childhood, and so I wanted to work with kids in that way. And I did for quite a while. It was pretty awesome. And then I decided, I'm pretty funny and I'm a little selfish and I like attention, and now I swear about my kids on stage.
Do you think stand-up is kind of like a ministry because you're kind of preaching to people on stage?
I guess in a sense that you're giving a message that you want people to have a desired outcome, and I think the message is just like laugh at life, especially parenting and childhood and kids and being a mom, being a dad. I think just that message of just laughing at it and bringing just joy is pretty fun too. You know what I mean? So yeah, I guess so, but I don't really see it like that. I'm just like I'm pretty happy that I can get my anxiety out by yelling and swearing about my kids, and then people laugh about it, and then they give me money. That's crazy. I never thought that would be possible.
That's good. Well, see, you kind of preach to like the single people because you're like, single people, this is what married life is like.
Yeah, that's true. I always tell people like, this is whatever you're gonna hear tonight. It's like my TED talk on abstinence for you guys.
Okay, do you have like a best and a worst show?
I don't know. That's tough. I don't know. I think that there are quite a few places that you go, and I'm not going to yell out cities. I've said it on my podcast, and that was enough because I don't want to make people mad. But yeah, there are some cities that are terrible shows just because it feels like they're a little dumb. Like, I've been in some places in the country where I'm like, not here. This is cool people. But yeah, you're like, where am I? Do they have never seen comedy? Do they know how to laugh here? And you know, you don't always want to blame it on the city. I mean, I could have not been funny that night, so who knows, right? But then the best is just, you know, any milestone I feel like you hit. It's not like it's the best. It's just another kind of, I don't want to say a notch on your belt, but just little, you know, feathers in your cap. There's all kinds of those moments, like when you get to, you know, I did Bob Saget's Dirty Daddy book tour with him, and that was amazing, you know, to do something like that. Someone like him to say, hey, you're funny, I want you to open for me. That's great. That feels good, you know. And little things where, you know, recording my comedy special, you know, my kids being able to see a little bit of that in the beginning, and them being there in my hometown, and which hopefully will be coming out soon. But yeah, there's little things like that. There are little kind of accomplishments. I think, you know, you're a stand-up comic, and, you know, so little things. You have a good set here, you get booked at a show. You know, your whole career, no matter if it's like, you know, getting your first paid show or getting a Netflix special, you think it's like very like different, but really those little milestones, you enjoy all of them along the way. You know what I mean? And I'm still waiting for that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you're still perpetually just trying to get something, you know, cooler and cooler, and hopefully keep doing what you love and for a living, you know?
Do you have like any heckler stories?
Yeah, not many, but one in particular I told on my podcast. Just one guy that it was in Buffalo. Just one guy that 2 minutes in of him interrupting the show, I knew he was a sociopath. Like this, and there was like no stopping him. Because normally I'm a pretty loud, gregarious dude, and you know, I can talk over people, and you know, but you know, sometimes someone is just so crazy in the head or so drunk, and that just happens. But normally, if you're really funny, that doesn't happen, and the clubs always take care of that too.
So how'd you get him to calm down?
What's that?
How'd you get him to calm down?
Oh, they kicked him out. It was bad. I mean, you asked for the worst one. He was crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it went on for like 15 minutes. It was nuts. I was like, what? Actually, the crowd like yelled for him to get out. It was crazy. I was floored. I was in Mad Dad. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to whip his ass in the corner. I don't beat my kids. I do.
So other than comedy clubs, like what other kind of type shows do you do?
Oh my gosh. Besides comedy clubs, I mean, everything. I mean, when you do comedy for a living and you're not selling out shows at comedy clubs, you got to do everything. You got to do everything to make a living. And not only make a living, you got to do everything to get good. You know, I really think that you have to experience all different kinds of shows. So that's from, you know, doing fundraiser shows and bar shows, and you know, football fundraisers, and you know, old people shows at noon at an old age home. You know, parties at a bowling alley. You know, like you do them all, and you do every club you can possibly do. So, yeah.
Do you ever do, like, since you're kind of family oriented, like all ages shows?
Only occasionally. I just feel like my gear is not like PG clean for like kids.
Yeah.
It's just not like me completely. I know that's weird coming from where I come from.
Yeah.
But it's just, I feel like that's the most fun way I express myself. But I've worked cruise ships, you know, that you have to work in front of kids, which is not a blast. That's another thing I've done. It's not a blast, but you kind of do it and you make it happen, and the kids kind of don't know what you're saying, and they're just, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I've done some like some improv shows for all ages and stuff like that. So yeah, and my kids got to see me do some of those things.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel about like kind of like that comedy? Do you think it should be like an older age thing, or is it all ages? Or because sometimes I hate it when you do shows you have to tell the kids to leave.
Yeah, that's weird. I think if someone has kids in the audience and you have to ask them to leave, I think that's their fault. Like that's only happened to me a couple times where you show up like to adult ticketed fundraiser, and then someone brings their 9-year-old and they're like, oh, it's fine, they've heard it all. I'm like, well, not for me. I don't want to swear in front of a 9-year-old. Like, I don't, you know, and I think it's unfair to change the whole show because somebody, brought their kid and doesn't think it's a big deal. You know, it's, you know, you could send that and repeat that to 1 million people, because like that's just crazy. That's someone being an idiot and being selfish who has their kids.
So do anything different based on where you're performing?
I don't think so. I mean, unless something completely strikes me, you know, locally. You know, if it's a place that, I don't know. I mean, you know how comedy works. It's very subjective. So it's like, you know, if I experience something local, you know, going somewhere that day or meeting somebody, sure, it might come up. But, you know, a lot of comedians, you know, I see a lot of comedians do that. I don't do it all the time, but yeah, it happens, you know. But that's about it. I don't like, you know, I used to have a joke that I always would have to check what the local grocery store was, and that got so annoying. So now I know, like, from asking all around the country, I know, like, what the grocery store is in every region of the United States. But I don't do that anymore, so that's good.
So is there a way to like get the audience involved in a positive way?
Yeah, sure, make them laugh. Yeah, I mean, sure, yeah. I mean, right? That's the most positive way to get them involved, right?
What if they're not involved? How do you?
Then I'm not doing my job. I mean, if they're not involved in laughing, then that's bombing. And so if you're doing that, I probably should not be working comedy clubs. I mean, honestly.
Is there anything else that you'd like to try that you haven't done yet?
Man, I don't know. I've done it a couple times. I would love to do cartoon voices. I would love to do voiceovers. I've done some voiceovers for radio. I did a cartoon pilot, maybe 2 cartoon pilots, but nothing ever, you know, I've never done anything professionally in a way where it was like a movie or TV show, so I'd love to do that. I would love to do cartoon voices because it's something I've always done, like voices and sound effects my whole life. It's just not particularly in my stand-up. So I think that would be a lot of fun to like explore that and do like voices. Yeah.
Didn't you have like a thing on Nickelodeon?
Yeah, no, I was part of a show called Super Ninjas, and I was a chubby, goofy science teacher. That's what I did on Nickelodeon.
That's cool.
And it's funny because people always, you know, sometimes they'll be like, you've seen him on Nickelodeon, and I'm like, you don't gotta say that. Like, no, they didn't. They're adults. Like, they didn't. If adults were watching a show for like 9-year-olds, that's weird that you saw me. You know what I mean? So it's a weird thing to say. Like, you've seen him on Nickelodeon. I'm like, no, you didn't.
Are you happy with the way things have turned out so far?
That's a loaded question. I'm happy that I can make a living making people laugh. I'm happy with that, and I'm happy that my wife has been able to be a stay-at-home mom for almost 4 years. That's amazing, and that's, you know, being from where we're from. You know, I'm from Pittsburgh, so you know, the cost of living isn't New York or LA, so it's a little bit easier, and we have family there, and we have a great support system. So I'm happy that I have all that, and we're able to do that. You know, it's pretty selfish that I get to do that for a living, and you know, it's like I get to live my dream. But it's cool too that my wife gets to live her dream too. Like, she wants to be a mom and a wife, and she's really good at it. So I do feel like that's success. You know what I mean? Even though I'm not rich and famous, which I don't care. I just want to pay my bills and make people laugh.
Not yet.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I liked your thing on YouTube where you like watch it for you, where you watch the movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's I did a thing with my buddy Dustin Dowling, who's a great writer and director of, like, you know, viral videos, and you know, he does a lot of music videos, and it's just something of my love for movies and my love and ability of improv, and I just came up with an idea where I was just like, hey, why don't I try to tell people about movies in 5 minutes? And so I would just watch a movie and maybe make a couple notes, and then stream of consciousness, just try to remember the movie by improvising. And it would usually run about 10 minutes, and he would cut it down to like 5 or 6. So that was difficult, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was a fun little thing I did. Yeah, I have a lot of those. I think so, on YouTube.
You had Billy Madison too. That's like one of my favorite.
Oh, that was a fun one. I remember that. Yeah.
This is so amazing. Thank you so much.
The room's filling up now. That's okay.
Do you have any advice for like up and coming comedians?
You know, I have like a little comedy mantra that I have on a sticker and I have on shirts. It's basically when everyone asks, you know, over the years people would ask for advice, and I kind of just broke it down to 2 phrases, and it's be kind, be funny. Like, it's really, if you think about it, like, you know, to do well in any business, you know, you have to do your job and be a decent person. I mean, not any business. I mean, lawyers and, you know, whatever. I don't know. You can name all kinds of businesses where you can be a piece of garbage. But I think in comedy, it really, be kind, be a cool person, be a nice person to everybody around you, everybody you come in contact with, because that kindness goes a long way. And be funny. Do your job. You know, that's, yeah. So be kind, be funny, and then times 1,000. Like, just keep doing that. If I could add a third phrase, it's just repetition. Comedy is repetition. It's just lifting weights, and the more you can do that, the better. Yeah.
I think I said you were the stand-up director at Arcade Comedy Theater.
Yeah, my friends, improvisers I grew up with. They started. I started improv with them a long time ago. And gosh, 6-7 years ago, they started a comedy theater in downtown Pittsburgh. It's one of the only non-profit comedy theaters in the country. And they were like, "Hey, you do stand-up. We need you to be in charge of our stand-up." And so I helped my friends basically program the stand-up at Arcade Comedy Theater for about 5 years. Yeah, it's still a great home. Yeah.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm performing. I'm opening up for my friend Todd Glass there next week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure the way I read if you were still doing it or not.
I'm not. No, I mean it's a labor of love, volunteering for a theater. You know, but I'm happy to be involved. You know, for the first 5 years of its inception and literally painting the walls in our old and now our newer theater. We have a newer theater. So yeah, it was cool being involved like that. But it's also, you know, still a home and where I can see comics, you know, grow, and my friends run a comedy theater and make comedy in Pittsburgh amazing. That's pretty rad. Yeah.
So I guess is there anything else you want to add?
I don't know. I feel like
You want to tell people can check you out? Like
yeah, growndadbusiness.com. Everything is on growndadbusiness.com. I have, you know, my podcast, Grown Dad Business. I have shirts, my calendar, all that stuff. Yeah, I'm trying to make it simple because nobody can spell Aaron Kleiber.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Boom, look at that. You know what it is? I like getting a shower before I come to a show, and I think I'm still hot from a hot shower, and I'm a fat sweaty monster, so not that much, but you know what I mean.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah, no, you can put that in. I don't care.
Well, I just started.
Okay, that's fine.